No,
well, listen,
silver lining.
thanks for being with us, everyone. See you next time on The Chase Australia.
An explosive battle erupts at Long Bay Jail tonight. Prison yard mayhem, tear gas fired, inmates forced to the ground, heavily armed guards moving in. Josh Reynolds' disaster year, the West Tiger star now accused of failing a roadside drug test. His response just in. Drunk and out of control, a driver's shocking near miss, crashing into a Western Sydney service station. Free childcare scrapped, the government calls time on its pandemic scheme, parents to pay from next month. Fighting back, a powerful message from boxing champions as health experts urge weekend protesters to self-isolate. Train spotting, police bust a major drug syndicate operating on Sydney's rail network. And Queen's birthday honours, more than 900 Australians named. A former PM tops the list.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. Prisoners inside Long Bay Jail have been hit with tear gas, whacked with batons and rounded up after guards were forced to break up two separate fights between inmates. Dozens of officers went in wearing face masks, the cloud of smoke even wafting from the prison yard, impacting neighbours nearby.
Midday at Long Bay Jail and all hell breaks loose, spiralling into an explosive standoff. From the air, every step of the crackdown can be seen. Guards versus inmates in an open area of the prison. Officers in full protective gear raced in as prisoners barrelled themselves up against the fence.
There was lots of screaming and yelling and whistles.
We heard somebody say, face the fence, sit down.
And it was the guards who held all the aces, sheer force and numbers, batons, dogs and tear gas set off on the roof and on the ground right next to prisoners, allowing masked guards to overrun the corner where there was nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. The tear gas so strong and potent it wafted over prison walls and into surrounding streets.
My son started to scream, saying that he couldn't swallow and his eyes were burning.
It burns my nose a lot. My face went hot and itchy.
I heard the tear gas canisters go off, and then my eyes and my throat and my nose started burning a lot.
We could hear the people going mad over there, and the tear gas must have went off.
Inside, the crackdown continued. Guards had to hold this dog at bay as some prisoners were let out. This one in a wheelchair and this man clearly limping. The rest surrounded, their wrists bound by cable ties. This inmate searched, but it wasn't over. The disturbance spreading to two other areas. Guards again surrounding inmates, up against another fence, the prisoners outnumbered as they too were led away, one by one.
This was certainly no quick operation and involved a significant number of resources to bring the situation under control. Those inmates, not marched back into their cells, took the opportunity to send a message.
Marking the letters on the ground, BLM, Black Lives Matter. The situation remained tense. Guards on one side of a fence, one pointing a gun, prisoners on the other, walking through a door, hands on heads. The message clear. It was the guards in charge. Remarkably, just one person injured in the standoff, a prisoner bitten by a dog and taken to hospital. Authorities say he'd refused to drop a weapon made in jail.
And Evan Batten is at Long Bay Jail for us tonight. Evan, since this was brought under control, prisoners haven't been allowed back out of their cells.
Mark, that's right. They've been in lockdown all afternoon, and while police have been called, it's understood this will now be handled by corrective services. They're now investigating no fewer than 6 inmates for attacking 2 other inmates in those 2 separate fights. They'll face a raft of disciplinary action, including segregation and the loss of other privileges. And now we understand that because this fight all centred on, this all was sparked because of the coronavirus, with no visitors being able to get into the jail. Drugs are much harder to come by. Mark?
OK, Evan Batten at Long Bay, thank you. In breaking news, West Tiger star Josh Reynolds has responded to explosive reports that he's failed a roadside drug test while driving on an expired licence. Let's go live now to Chief League reporter Michelle Bishop. Michelle, Reynolds claims he was not drug driving.
Good evening, Mark. I spoke to the 31 a short time ago and he is adamant that it was a false positive. Josh Reynolds, the former State of Origin star, was pulled over by police in Caringbah. Of course, that's where he lives at 1:30 this morning after being given an infringement notice for his expired licence. He did fail a drug test. He was taken back to Sutherland Police Station for a second test, which he says was negative. That second test has been sent to a laboratory for further analysis. Josh Reynolds says that he has no doubt whatsoever that the lab will confirm it was certainly negative. It's been a really rough couple of years for Josh Reynolds. Of course, he had domestic violence charges dropped against him in February when he was caught up in a fake pregnancy scam. Mark.
OK, Michelle Bishop at Bank West, thank you. A pedestrian has somehow escaped with barely centimetres to spare as a drunk driver crashed into a service station at Liverpool last night. The driver wrecked his car and blew almost 4 times the limit. The whole incident caught on security video.
It's 9:15 last night when this Mitsubishi Lancer goes out of control on the Hume Highway at Liverpool, slamming into a service station sign and spinning back onto the road. But it could have been far worse. A pedestrian skips out of the way just in time.
2 seconds away. It could have been fatal.
The 40-year-old driver crashed into the Speedway servo at Kerry Street. He escaped without injury, even called the police himself.
I'm still amazed the driver walked out without a single scratch.
But he's in big trouble.
Back at the police station, he returned a result of .185, which is a very, very high-range reading.
He was refused bail, charged with high-range PCA, dangerous and negligent driving, his licence suspended. The long weekend has seen almost 5,000 speeding infringements. In one case, a drunken learner, 50k over the limit.
Well, this is very dangerous and reckless behaviour on our roads.
And deadly. At least 2 people have been killed. It wasn't just speeding and drink driving. The Highway Patrol stopped a woman at Constitution Hill near Toongabbie. She returned a positive drug test, but then repeatedly rammed the police car. She got away, but was identified as 37-year-old Kelly Fitzgibbon driving a beige Saab with Canberra plates.
We'll be knocking on every door that she's been associated with.
Tom Saker, 7 News.
Australian families with youngsters in childcare will have to start paying again next month. The Morrison government has scrapped the pandemic relief measure because of growing demand for childcare places. But critics say that will change as fees return.
It was born in a deluge of government money to wall off the economy from a pandemic.
No one imagined 2 months ago that we would be in the position that we are.
Announced early April, free childcare will be done away with next month. A week later, the government will stop JobKeeper wage subsidies for the sector. Never mind this 3 days ago.
But the 6 months of provision of JobKeeper has been set out in legislation and people can count on that.
And a few days later, they've broken that promise.
Reverting to the pre-April childcare subsidy scheme. There's a 3-month transition. The government will pay centres a quarter of their ordinary fees, and for families who've lost work, ease the activity test parents must pass to get subsidised care.
But that's very confusing because now it applies to some families and not other families, which is hard to administer.
It was nice to have that kind of support, you know.
The Salanoa family expected the change but questioned the timing.
There's other families that are still struggling with trying to get their jobs back and those that don't even have a job.
The government's argument? Australian childcare centres have recovered 74% of their pre-pandemic numbers. Free childcare is a victim of its own success.
This decision will result in a second wave of exits.
The government and sector will watch childcare numbers beyond July.
We'll probably keep our 3-year-old and we'll probably take the 1-year-old out.
But the unwinding of the giant economic defences announced in autumn has begun. Tim Lester, 7 News.
Protest marches will now be illegal until after the COVID crisis, with police ordered not to issue any more permits following Saturday's rally. Medical experts are warning those who demonstrated to get tested and consider self-isolating, but supporters say it was worth it.
They know how to fight, and these world boxing champs are pulling no punches.
Why not continue protesting? We have to. We have to do it. We have to stand together.
They've hit back at critics who say in a pandemic, This should not have gone ahead.
We're trying to show that we're trying to come together.
But doctors say protesters need to step up, asking
anyone with symptoms who attended those protests get tested.
Look at the option of isolating themselves from the rest of the community for that next 2-week period.
The state government will now effectively outlaw mass protests, refusing any permits during the pandemic.
If we don't issue the permit, I think the Supreme Court doesn't have anything to deliberate. There's no permit, there's no permits.
Tonight we can provide insight into why the protest ban was overturned at the last minute on Saturday. It turned on a very simple legal principle that police had inadvertently already given their approval for a large crowd. This email to protest organisers shows police knew it would start at Town Hall with about 5,000 people. Could you please confirm that you agree with this amended Form 1? By law, the fact police were asking organisers to sign it meant they had already approved it themselves. That was Thursday, and then on Friday...
I did not give the green light, can I say?
Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
After 11 days straight, the state's stellar run of no locally acquired corona cases has come to an end with a new patient confirmed overnight. Meantime, those plotting Australia's virus recovery have rejected updated WHO advice on wearing face masks in public.
A coronavirus face-off as the World Health Organisation switches stance to recommend face masks for all to topple the pandemic. Australia's own COVID think tank says there's no need here.
Community mask use is likely to be beneficial in communities where the prevalence of COVID-19 is far higher than it is in Australia.
Also from today's hookup of the nation's health chiefs, stadium sports, as the NRL prepares to welcome crowds back to corporate boxes this week.
Returning to spectator sport in Australia is a really important thing for all Australians to see us working towards, and we're doing that.
Today's small step forward, the go-ahead for councils to resume citizenship ceremonies. Across the Tasman, New Zealand has declared itself virus-free, with its only remaining patient now fully recovered. All restrictions will be lifted at midnight, including social distancing. The only control left, the strict border lockdown, which includes keeping Australians out.
No one wants to jeopardise the gains New Zealand has made, and so we will be very, very careful when we make those decisions.
That, as New South Wales' own sprint to stamp out the virus hits a hurdle, with a new patient overnight breaking an 11-day drought of no locally acquired cases. Miley Hogan, 7 News.
Many across the United States continue to protest, and in some parts, cities are implementing change, even stripping police forces of funding. But among the peaceful movement, there were flashpoints, including a frightening confrontation captured by bystanders.
In Seattle, a driver takes aim, stopping just short of a large protest. Then this.
Oh, Jesus!
A pop and a man falls back, shot. His attacker
there's a gun!
Gets out, brandishing a pistol and eager to make a quick getaway. But he doesn't get far. Minutes later, he's seen walking up to a line of police, arrested and taken away. His victim given urgent first aid as well as praise. Walking and still bleeding, he describes what happened.
I catch him, I punch him in the face. I hear the gunshot go off in my arms. I moved right in time when he reached for something. I moved right, but my whole thing was to protect those people.
America, a country still on edge and demanding sweeping change. Minneapolis voting to start with its police department, tearing it down and starting again.
To end policing as we know it.
In New York, home to the country's biggest police force,
we are committed to shifting resources.
Mayor Bill de Blasio defunding the NYPD, essentially taking money out of the budget for policing and redirecting it to community programs and social services. Local action, but a presidential election is now just 5 months away.
And I certainly cannot in any way support President Trump.
Colin Powell, a Republican, and George W. Bush's Secretary of State endorsing Democrat Joe Biden.
He lies. He lies about things. And he gets away with it because people will not hold him accountable.
While Donald Trump has contacted George Floyd's family via phone, tomorrow his political adversary will travel to Houston to meet them. Joe Biden will also record a video message to be played at the funeral the next day. More days of raw emotion ahead and hope that better days are coming.
We have to vote. We have to make our congressional leaders understand that this is unacceptable.
In Washington, D.C., Amelia Brace, 7 News.
The British Prime Minister says anti-racism protests have been subverted by thuggery, with police attacked and injured in London, while shops were looted and torched across Europe.
It stood controversially for 125 years, toppled in one swift move. The statue of the 17th century slave trader was rolled through Bristol before being dumped in the harbour. A symbolic gesture with widespread support, this act less so. A memorial to one of Britain's most respected figures vandalised. Thousands hoping for generational change took to the streets of London.
You don't want them to experience what you've experienced?
I don't want them to experience what I've been experiencing, yeah. And it will be broken my heart. I have a lot of racist discrimination experience.
But again, that message was hijacked by a minority intent on attacking police.
Get out of the way!
Fireworks and bottles hurled at unarmed officers in Whitehall. Boris Johnson tweeting the demonstrations have been subverted by thuggery.
After a week of protests here in London, the mood here this evening is considerably more tense, but still the police tactics remain so very different to what we've witnessed in America and in other parts of Europe.
In Brussels, they used water cannon, but that didn't deter rioters looting luxury stores, detracting from the global movement against racism that others are fighting so hard for. In London, Sarah Greenolch, 7 News.
A holiday weekend mishap has left a boat high and dry on the rocks in Middle Harbour. The 81-year-old female skipper and her 4 companions needed rescuing last night, but their vessel had to stay put right next to the lighthouse at Dobroyd Head. No one was injured. The boat is still to be retrieved. More than 900 Australians have been named in the Queen's Birthday Honours List in recognition of their distinguished professional and community service. Among the few to receive the very highest award, former Prime Minister Tony Abbott.
The nation's 28th Prime Minister, now a companion of the Order of Australia. One of only 3 to receive the honour this year, Tony Abbott says he didn't make it on his own.
No one gets to be a Prime Minister other than as part of a team, so I regard this as a team award.
Joined on this year's Queen's Birthday Honours list by former Liberal colleagues. Says he's incredibly thankful into senior roles. For driving melanoma research, Professor Georgina Long receives a nod. Her career dedicated touched.
Hello, Daniel. Are you ready for tonight, 7:30?
I played footy for Gold Coast. Oh, nice. Oh, I got sacked. Was lucky enough to get picked up by Carlton. They sacked me again.
They may have sacked you, but I have chosen you.
I gotta be me.
Have you got what it takes to be the last one in my house?
I didn't really believe I could play footy, but I believe I can win this.
I am Big Brother, and I'll see you tonight, 7:30.
On 7. Can care be better at home?
Someone from Medibank mentioned that there's a chance I can do rehab at home.
I said, oh, how much extra is that going to cost?
And they said, no, you've got it in your hospital cover. It just was fantastic for me.
Everyone knows Volkswagen drivers expect a little more. Golf Comfort Line from just $30,490 drive away.
Volkswagen.
At Chemist Warehouse, we are always here for you. Check out our amazing June catalogue sale on now. Silicea Ultra 1-a-day hair skin and nails, 30 capsules, $22.99. Healthy Care Coenzyme Q10 150mg 100 capsules, $22.09. Lifespace Probiotic for 60 plus years, 60 capsules, $23.99. And OptiGold Premium Toddler Milk Drink 900 grams, $20.99. Shop in-store, online or call your local store to arrange contact-free delivery. Chemist Warehouse, great savings every day.
Tough, refined, exceptional value. A BT50 stands out. At the Mazda Standout End of Financial Year event, get a 2019 plate Mazda BT50 XT 4x4 dual cab with ABN bonus from $37,490 drive away.
Needs a friend. For the sake of those around you, eat a bit more Aussie fruit, veg and nuts. It's the good mood food. I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. You say what can make me feel this way.
The first ever GLB, room for 7, and much more.
Tasty, affordable and delicious. What's for dinner in the next break with Coles?
Welcome back. Hundreds of drivers are taking huge risks at level crossings, with cameras catching them dicing with death. These pictures from Victoria revealing what really happens when vehicles are hit by trains. School students are in the wrong too, seen here walking over tracks, one boy needing to be helped up with only seconds to spare. 25 kilometres of coast remains closed as the hunt continues for a great white that killed a surfer off northern New South Wales. Despite heroic efforts to save him, 60-year-old Rob Pedretti lost his life on the beach. His mates want him remembered as a man of the ocean.
He was a lovely guy. Everyone loved him. He was everyone's mate. Loved surfing, loved life, and he was starting to enjoy life in retirement. But we're going to miss him.
At his favourite break in Tugun, those closest to Rob Pedretti mourn their mate.
Great heart, so gentle, you know, just one of the gentle souls.
The 60-year-old from Victoria called Tugun home for 40 years.
Just a cool guy, he's just one of the boys, you know, he was a gentle giant.
Rob's last surf was at Salt Beach near Kingscliff. A 3-metre great white attacked, severing an artery in his left thigh. Rob's mate Frank rendered aid as the shark circled.
He's struggling as expected, but he's a hero in all this story.
The other hero, stranger, Mark Hayes.
Frank believes that if Mark wasn't there, it was just him and Robbo, that shark, Frank probably wouldn't be here either.
On the beach where they witnessed Rob draw his last breath, there's a growing memorial. The water now off limits between the border and Pottsville, where there are no drum lines. But the whereabouts of the shark that fatally attacked Rob Pedretti yesterday remains unknown, and the order to kill it has been revoked. And because it isn't tagged, authorities won't know for sure they've got the right one.
Do you think Robbo would want it to be killed?
No.
Nah.
Not at all. Not at all. He'd be angry with it though.
In Kingscliff, Tom Hartley, 7 News.
Prince Andrew could be forced to give evidence within months after a major escalation in the case of his former friend, billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Reports in the UK suggest America's Department of Justice has bypassed Buckingham Palace, instead filing what's called a mutual legal assistance request to Britain's Home Office. It's a demand to hand over Prince Andrew to be questioned, increasing pressure on the Duke to give evidence about what he knew of Epstein's sex trafficking network. The 60-year-old prince has so far refused to answer questions but denies any wrongdoing. Tropical storm Cristobal has made landfall in the US, bringing widespread flooding to Louisiana and parts of Mississippi. The system dumped as much as 150 millimetres of rain an hour during the morning, triggering a waterspout off Alabama and a tornado in Orlando. The storm's expected to head further north over the next few days. Police have made a major breakthrough while investigating a shooting in Sydney South. Next, what this young woman's been charged with. Later, Sydney's secret drug syndicate, how criminals are hiding in plain sight. Staying on track during COVID, from out of work to keeping our trains clean. And new evidence that may surprise parents, why one expert says we should not limit kids' screen time.
Hello Australia, are you ready for tonight, 7:30? Welcome to my brand new house. I have searched for a new breed of housemaid.
I'm a mum of 2. People will never pick that I am a woodwork teacher.
I'm known throughout Adelaide as Adelaide's worst driver.
I'm really competitive in life.
I am Big Brother, and I'll see you tonight, 7:30.
On 7.
It's me, Darren, and I'm back again, and this time I'm going to show you something exotic. So what's for dinner? All the way from Morocco, this dish has so much flavour. So there's just a few steps before you get to enjoy my lamb tagine. Okay, step 1, veggies. So I'm going to dice some brown onion, some carrot, and some celery. I'm going to add a splash of olive oil to my pan. I'm just going to cook these over a really sort of low heat, probably for about 10 to 15 minutes. Going to add a pinch of salt and pepper just at the start. Okay, next to the lamb, star of the show, I've got a boned rolled shoulder of lamb that I've just bought from Coles, so all the hard work is done. Cut this into large pieces. Okay, that's done. It's time to add garlic to our veggies. I'm just going to grate them in using a fine grater. Time to get spicy. I've toasted my coriander and cumin seeds and I've ground them. And I've added them to my palette of spices, which is ground turmeric, ground cinnamon and ground ginger. We're going to stir it in. Okay, I've just turned up the heat. It smells incredible already. I'm going to add the lamb pieces, and what we're going to do is just try and coat most of that lamb with the spices and the veggies. Next, I'm going to add my thyme. I'm just going to chuck the whole lot in there, and I'm going to add tinned tomatoes and some chicken stock as well. Oops, almost forgot bay leaf. Okay, I'm going to bring this to the boil, and then I'm going to put a lid on it and pop it into an oven that's been preheated to 160 degrees. It's been cooking for about an hour now, so I'm just going to have a little check, see how it's going. Oh wow, awesome. I reckon it's got about half an hour to go, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook it without the lid for that half an hour, just to reduce the liquid down a little bit. It is so tender, it looks amazing, smells delicious. So I've got some preserved lemon, some green olives, some harissa honey. I'm gonna give it a stir. Now to serve, I've steamed some couscous, got coriander, got some parsley, and we are ready to go. So fragrant, a little bit spicy. It's perfectly balanced. This is absolutely delicious. I feel like I've been transported over to Marrakesh. For more recipes like this, visit coles.com.au and enjoy your cooking.
Wake up.
The doctor will see you now.
Morning, Doc. Go away.
The delightful Doc Martin, tonight on 7/2.
Welcome back. A young woman accused of helping 2 gunmen plot a shooting attack has sobbed in court after she was told she'd be staying behind bars. Darcy Rotherick was on parole when one of 3 targeted shootings played out in Sydney South.
Just weeks ago, Darcy Rotherick walked free from jail after serving a 6-month sentence. She told friends she wanted to stay out. But new allegations putting her at the centre of a shooting means she's back behind bars after being arrested in the Rocks last night. The 22-year-old accused of plotting a kneecapping with 2 men 3 months ago, the first of 3 violent crimes. The shooting spree began at 4 a.m. on March 29 in Lucas Heights. A 30-year-old man forced into bushland and shot in the legs. Shortly after that same day in Bexley, 3 men escaped injury after a round of bullets was fired. A few days later in Caringbah, a family home was shot up. A young mother injured by shattered glass. Brothers Ben and Joshua Goddard have been charged over the rampage after several appeals by police. Today, their co-accused Rotherick faced court and made a bid for bail. Rotherick sat squirming in the dock as the court heard she has a lengthy criminal history and was on parole at the time of the incident she was allegedly involved in. When she was told she'll remain behind bars, the 22-year-old put her head in her hands and sobbed. She'll return to court tomorrow. Natasha Squarey, 7 News.
The break's been repaired, but the clean-up is still underway at Mascot after a water main burst at the intersection of Gardners Road and Burke Street last night. The basement garage of a nearby apartment block was also flooded.
I don't know what happened, no, but they're doing roadwork next door.
The water didn't get high enough to wreck any cars. Sydney Water managed to turn off the flow and repair the main. Public transport use has doubled in the past 2 months as more commuters travel again with coronavirus restrictions easing. On our trains, 2,000 carriages are being cleaned 4 times a day, bringing jobs to some of those who had been left out of work.
This was Nicholas Lampasona when COVID hit. And here he is now. Andrew Cronitz, usually at home on stage.
You don't have to change a thing.
But he swapped the theatre for trains.
Well, it definitely took us all by surprise, the sort of jobs that we all have to take. It's a really nice thing to sort of feel like I'm actually out there giving back in this time of real stress.
When the lockdown happened, Nicholas couldn't keep performing in tango clubs, so turned to busking with this sign. That led to his new gig.
I feel really lucky.
More than 1,000 cleaners have been hired, hundreds of those people who'd found themselves out of work.
An opportunity not only for them to be employed at such a difficult time, but they're also providing us with such a critical role.
More commuters are expected to be out and about from tomorrow after the long weekend, but the advice remains to stay off public transport unless you have to use it. In the first week of April, around 400,000 trips on average were made daily on public transport. In the first week of May, around 500,000. Then last week, a jump to 800,000.
I'd urge anybody who sees crowding on the network to walk away from that.
Nina Stevens, 7 News.
The biggest investment tackling homelessness in the state's history. That's how the government is selling its $36 million Together Home project. It aims to halve the number of people sleeping rough by 2025. And while support groups welcome the move, they want even more investment.
While the lockdown has forced many to stay home, it's also provided a home for rough sleepers, some for the first time in years.
What this will provide is permanent housing and support for a whole range of people that will make a huge difference to their lives.
The state government's Together Home strategy will spend $36 million, half on acquiring private units and half on services to help several hundred rough sleepers get off the streets for good.
By providing a roof, you then have the opportunity to provide the wraparound services and help rebuild people's lives.
During the lockdown, 1,200 people have been placed in hotels, with welfare groups fearing most would go straight back to sleeping outside when restrictions are lifted. Since April, the government has helped 100 people transition from the streets into permanent accommodation. That doesn't sound like much, but before the pandemic, that figure was 200 people per year. Now, welfare groups and the opposition are calling on the government to do a lot more. They want 5,000 new social housing units built each year for 10 years to house the 50,000 people on the waiting list before the pandemic hit.
And what we want the government to do is use this opportunity to prioritise those people who are doing it really, really tough.
The government has promised to halve the number of rough sleepers in New South Wales by 2025. Brian Seymour, 7 News.
The pandemic has forced many of us to spend much more time indoors, with children using computers, tablets and TVs more than ever. But some experts say instead of feeling guilty, parents should focus on how children can benefit from technology.
Like many parents during COVID-19, mother of 2, Elise Bone, has seen changes in her children's habits. The big one, they're spending more time in front of screens.
They need to get through it as well, and if it means having some more quiet time and learning or just watching screens, well, it's what you've got to do.
According to the Bureau of Statistics, 58% of us are using devices more during the pandemic. But some experts say when it comes to kids, extra time isn't all bad.
One of the things we've learnt from this COVID isolation is just how positive technology can be in a child's life.
Dr. Joanne Orlando says we should shift our focus from screen time to screen quality.
So are they doing something educational, problem solving, using their imagination, being creative? You know, we want to aim for that kind of content.
Children should also use it as a time to connect with others.
Soon will you come and see Nana?
Sometimes by themselves, sometimes with people online and sometimes with people right next to them. That's the mix that you want to aim for as a parent.
While experts say we shouldn't be too obsessed with screen time, that doesn't mean kids should be on their devices all day long.
What we do know is that when kids spend more time inside and looking at things up close, they do have an increased risk of developing short-sightedness.
The advice, balance that screen time with some green time. Elise Baker, 7 News.
Sydney's older ferries are being brought into the modern world. Next, how the iconic vessels are being revamped and when you can get on board. Plus, stop right now, Victoria Beckham's battle with an Aussie skincare company.
In sport, the battle of the under-fire coaches. How the Bulldogs-Dragons clash unfolded is coming up.
Sunny breaks today, a shower or two tonight, local forecast soon.
His dad doesn't have long left.
I've never played in front of my son before, so biggest gig of my life.
19 years, 6 months was the day that I found out that I was a dad. This is for you, my son.
Home and Away, next on 7.
At GIO, we know when it comes to home insurance, everyone loves to save. But here's something you might not know. With our 3 levels of home insurance coverage, you can choose one that best suits your needs and budget. See? It pays to be in the know. It's just one of the many ways you can save with GIO. Call 13 1010 today. You know with GIO.
Getting back on the road is something we're all looking forward to. And at Toyota, we're here to help you do just that.
Get Hilux 4x4 SR5 from $53,990 drive away. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
Guys, we've got another jackpot winner.
Ozphoto, will your numbers bring you a truckload of cash this Tuesday?
Play now in-store at thelot.com or on the Lot app.
What am I looking forward to? Well, I just really want what I have today.
The more life changes, the more you know what's important. MLC.
Is So Good almond milk the better milk for you? It's dairy-free and full of calcium. So Good almond milk is packed with vitamins, and unsweetened varieties have no added sugar. Feel good inside and out and make today so good.
So what did you end up getting?
I bought a Jeep.
You bought a Jeep?
Mm-hmm. And so did over 100,000 other Australians. But for some, owning a Jeep wasn't as enjoyable as driving one, which is why Jeep have now committed to cap price servicing and more dedicated technical specialists. So every driver is looked after. What do you think of that, Michael?
Oh, man.
Are you pregnant or planning for a baby? Try Elevate Pregnancy Multivitamin from Chemist Warehouse. Elevate is Australia's most trusted pregnancy multivitamin, a scientific formula with more folic acid and iron than any other pregnancy multivitamin. Elevate Pregnancy Multivitamin is $59.99 at Chemist Warehouse. And now available Elevate DHA to support baby's brain and eye development, and Elevate Probiotics to support immunity. Live, look, feel well at Chemist Warehouse.
Checking fuel prices, and they're now rising across Sydney. Today's public holiday average was $1.16 a litre, but we found regular unleaded for just 93.7 cents at Metro Guildford. Former Spice Girl Victoria Beckham has ended her trademark battle with Sydney company VB Skin Lab, which had tried to register 2 logos using the initials VB. The now British fashion designer had objected, but both sides have now agreed to settle the case. A federal court judge has directed for the trademark applications to proceed. After gracing the harbour for decades, they were headed for the scrapyard, but now the iconic First Fleet ferries have been given $1 million reprieve. Tonight we have an exclusive look at their upgrade, which promises smooth sailing for years to come.
The workhorse of the harbour overhauled, starting with some open heart surgery. Its engine and gearbox carefully replaced.
insides gutted.
The electronics will all be brand new, all the navigational equipment will be brand new, so it'll all be state of the art.
Lighter, smarter and faster, the new look Golden Grove is the first of Sydney's heritage First Fleet ferries to undergo a $1.3 million refurbishment.
They were obviously named after the First Fleet vessels that came to Australia, brought into the 21st century, that's for sure.
Out with the old, inner harbour commuters much more comfortable with new floors, seats and air conditioning. The 1980s green and sand fleet, famous in the Australia Day ferry races, the state government had planned to scrap them for river cats and harbour cats, but that idea was sunk.
They're a tourist icon. It is without doubt one of the iconic connections that people make to the harbour, and it's great to see these ferries given that facelift.
Upgrades will extend the life of the Golden Grove by 10 years. She'll be back on the water in 2 weeks' time after the crew has finished training. The remaining 8 will get the same fit out over the next year. Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
Police have uncovered a major Sydney drug distribution syndicate across our suburbs. Criminals using the rail network. 7 News has obtained security video of the moment officers swoop. Don't miss that story soon. But now Mel is here with sport, and Mel, the pressure could not be any more intense for Paul McGregor.
You're right, Fergo. There was more misery for the Dragons today, and their head coach is in the firing line. We'll cross to Bankwest Stadium next. Plus, the Panthers can't wait to welcome back a fired-up Nathan Cleary ahead of Friday's blockbuster Battle of the West. And it looks a little different this year, but the Big Freeze was another big success as all 18 clubs played their part for this great cause.
Hello, Angela. Are you ready for tonight, 7:30?
I came from Africa with nothing but a suitcase. My family is everything. At home, I'm my mom. At work, I'm a boss.
I got a baby. I am Big Brother, and I've chosen you.
I'll do anything to win.
How do you plan to eliminate the others?
I'll sweet talk you during the day and I'll vote you out at night. Mean, but I like it.
I am Big Brother, and I'll see you tonight, 7:30.
When the road calls, here's the very best way to answer. The BMW X3 S-Drive 20i from $69,900 drive away. Joy is coming.
Guys, we've got another jackpot winner.
Lotto, will your numbers bring you a truckload of cash this Tuesday?
Play now in-store at thelot.com or on the Lot app.
Hi, Peter. What can I get you?
Just some beef mince, please.
Just some beef mince. Tell me, was Bradman just a cricketer, Peter?
Don Bradman was a great...
I hear you, Bill.
Did Kate just do a spot of telly?
Oh, and I suppose your mum Denise makes just a bolognese.
Peter, Mum. OK. I'll have some beef mince, please.
Great choice. Because...
Our beef's the greatest meat on earth.
Hey, Tina, can you please slice the lettuce, tomato and onions, toast the buns, grab the sauce and mayo and... Oh, and bring the meat.
Take a break from cooking and get Hungry Jack's Flame Grill Whoppers delivered now on Uber Eats or Menu Lock. Hungry Jack's Delivery. The burgers are better.
Beacon's Mega Stocktake sale is now on. Enjoy reduced prices on all our stock at all Beacon lighting stores across Australia or online. That's mega savings on all our stock during our Mega Stocktake sale.
There's a glass and a half in everyone.
We're for the bingers, the TV tragics, the laptop peekers, the get an ep in on the way to work sneakers. For Speak to the Hand, I'm watching my show. I'm not coming to the party, but please, you go. For escaping the world, even just for a while. Go on, lose yourself, on your face, a big smile, with friends or your family, or when everyone's gone. To all of you bingers! Binge on.
Welcome back. Paul McGregor says he will not quit as Dragons coach, but understands if he's finished after today's disaster. The Dragons suffered a diabolical 22-2 defeat to the battling Bulldogs. They're the last team without a win from 4 rounds now.
For both coaches, all players, this one became the JobKeeper Cup.
If we don't go out today and, play like it's our last game, then we're kidding ourselves.
I think you'll see two pretty desperate sides out here trying to get the victory.
Kieran Foran's 200th game, Adam Clune's first on his 25th birthday, Matt Duffy demoted to ball boy. 2 proud clubs, winless and in trouble. The first half showed exactly why the Bulldogs made mistake after mistake.
Nothing short of horrible.
Dean Pay was wondering why he'd want to keep this job.
They've been hopeless.
Remus Smith was reported, but somehow the Dragons were even worse.
Taking them on, and he patted it down.
The Dogs led 10-2 at the break. Time for some Hail Marys. But Paul McGregor could only sit through a nightmare second half. At one point, the Dragons had made 9 straight errors, and the Bulldogs went further ahead.
They've got them shot to bits.
There was silence behind the try line, a coach looking beyond hope. Bleeding and desperate, a flying Jordan Pereira tried.
The try line!
So cruel, Air Jordan's gravity-defying effort was denied. One thing's for sure about the Dogs, they try as hard as anyone.
Remus Smith can certainly get up there, comes down with it!
Now 80 days without a try, Dragons players say they still want their coach.
Absolutely, of the playing group, 100%. I will not go back on that, and for anyone to question that, I'll just tell them now they're wrong. This game's hard, it's tough, and we just need to find a bit more.
Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
Yeah, we go live now to Chief League reporter Michelle Bishop at Bankwest Stadium. Hello, Shell. Well, time could be up for Paul McGregor.
Good evening, Mel. He is determined to fight on, and of course that is with the Dragons. Their 4th straight loss, as you guys say tonight, and unable to score a single try against the lowly ranked Bulldogs. But Paul McGregor did speak after the match, and he said he just simply can't walk away. Let's take a listen.
I'd like to think not, mate, but the performance wasn't good enough. We're not giving ourselves a chance in any of the game, with or without the footy. What you just watched and I just coached wasn't good enough. I'm not a quitter. You don't quit on people you believe in and have confidence in and got enthusiasm for your job. No chance.
Certainly a big job ahead for the Red V, but on the flip side, for the Bulldogs, hasn't the pressure eased for coach Dean Pay, who was in a similar situation and, of course, fighting for a new contract. But what a way for Kieran Foran to celebrate his 200th game in the NRL. Mel.
Yeah, it was a great occasion for him. Thank you very much, Michelle Bishop there at Bankwest Stadium. Well, the Panthers say Nathan Cleary is ready to rip in against the ladder-leading Eels on Friday night. Cleary returns after serving a 2-game ban for lying to the integrity unit about his now infamous TikTok video.
That leadership and that structure of the game, it would be nice. He's just ready to rip in, and you'll see on Friday.
Last night, the West Tigers imploded against Gold Coast. Leading by a point late, the Tigers allowed the Titans to regather a short kick-off, then conceded a try.
I'm sick and tired of the ups and downs of performance, simple as that. We need to change that. That's what this club has been. I didn't want to say that, but that's the truth.
The Titans got home 28-23, their first win in 364 days. Well, the Dragons remain anchored to the bottom at the end of round 4. The unbeaten Eels lead the way, a point ahead of the Knights and the Panthers. Well, all 18 AFL clubs united today to bring the big freeze to life in such unique circumstances. They chose one player each to take an icy plunge for Neil Danaher's Fight MND Foundation.
As I always say, without your support, we won't find the shore.
Swan star Isaac Heaney repeated the board riding antics that caused a fuss during lockdown. Giant Toby Green dressed as a Karate Kid, a dig at one of his many controversies.
Obviously a bit of a contentious issue, and I thought we'd just have a bit of a laugh about it and continue to change rules.
Well, to donate or buy a beanie, visit fightmnd.org.au. Fergo, this is always such an unbelievable occasion. Neil Danaher, what an unbelievable human being he is still fighting on.
Yeah, great effort for a great cause, especially this year.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mel. A crackdown on drug dealers operating on Sydney's rail network has seen a spike in arrests at stations stretching from the city circle to Blacktown. 7 News has obtained exclusive vision of officers nabbing dealers in the act, often in broad daylight.
Drug dealers plying their trade at major Sydney train stations, caught on security camera as they're grabbed by police.
It's brazen drug dealing in the middle of the day on some of the busiest commuter stations across the network.
Officers forced to chase and grapple with offenders near commuters. Not just drugs, this year alone the Police Transport Command has seized nearly 200 knives.
With 12,000 cameras out there, we can spot them, we guide the police there and they make arrests.
Concentrating on rail hotspots. At Blacktown Station, drug arrests up 21%, a 23% rise at Liverpool, Town Hall up 17%, Epping Station drug arrests rose 19%, with targeted police operations using undercover officers and sniffer dogs. These are drug dealers operating not in the cover of darkness, but in the middle of the day, at rail peak times, often when students are travelling home from schools. Now, with COVID-19, passenger numbers at train stations are down nearly 70%.
Now's the time to get a plan together to crack down on drug dealing.
Rail bosses say offenders are already on notice.
There's nowhere to hide.
Chris Marr, 7 News.
David is back now with the latest forecast. Brownie, nice in the sun today.
Oh, yes, indeed, Fergo, but you might need a brolly tomorrow, and of course I'll have your forecast straight after the break. Tonight on the latest from 7 News On Edge, new details on this prison violence live to Long Bay. The COVID milestone that could see our borders open sooner. And we're standing by to hear from Prince Andrew as US investigators demand answers over links to Jeffrey Epstein. Join me at 10:10 on the latest.
Tonight, 7:30, my game begins. There will be a big challenge every night. And someone will be evicted every night.
Oh my God, it's flowing!
Who wins? You decide. I am Big Brother, and I'll see you tonight, 7:30.
Let's do it, baby. It's on, mate.
Make this Saturday one to remember. Get best tote on all exotics on every race across all Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Adelaide races. PointsBet.
There's a war going on in this valley. Today's the day you choose sides.
Academy Award winner Kevin Costner stars in Stan's epic series, Yellowstone.
Call progress, John. Can't stop it. Watch me.
Esquire raves it's the wildest ride on television.
I'm gonna pull down every fence. All the angels are gone. There's only devils left.
Watch every episode now before the brand new season of Yellowstone premieres June 22 only on Stan.
After supporting generations with tried and trusted pain relief, we're stretching beyond the medicine cabinet. At Panadol, we're making it our mission to help more Australians focus on staying well. Together, let's rethink care.
Make sure you're totally ready when it's time to present to your most important audience ever. Unlike ordinary toothpaste, Colgate Total's breakthrough formula actively fights bacteria on your teeth, tongue, cheeks and gums for 12 hours, keeping your whole mouth healthy. Colgate Total. Be totally ready for life. From home time to sleepy time, IKEA designs around life's precious moments. So make mess, mohawks, and laugh until your belly hurts. Because with IKEA, there really is no place like home.
Purchase any commercial or industrial spit water pressure cleaner and get a whopping 61% off a range of accessories till June 30. Pressure clean to the max, claim the tax. Call 1-800-SPITWATER now.
Spitwater cleans, that's what it does.
You're relying on our network more, so we're accelerating the rollout of Telstra 5G, giving more people and businesses access to fast download speeds in more places than ever.
If you're experiencing abuse or domestic violence, contact 1-800-RESPECT for free, confidential advice and counselling, online and by phone 24/7. There's no place for abuse or domestic violence. Help is here. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Meet the crew. They got their own way of betting. And this is me. I've always got the answer.
Make this NRL season one to remember. If your team leads at halftime, you win. That's right. Lead at the half and we'll pay you out straight away as a winner. PointsBet.
The power's in your hands and at your feet.
the BMW 320i sedan from $69,900 drive away. Joy is coming.
19 years, 6 months was the day that I found out that I was a dad. This is for you, my son.
Home and Away, next on 7.
This weather report brought to you by the BMW 3 Series.
This isn't what they meant by self-service checkouts.
Since COVID has hit triple amount of theft.
Catching the crisis opportunists. 7 News at 6.
Tonight, 7 News headlines. Long Bay Jail is in lockdown after guards were forced to break up fights between inmates using tear gas and batons. West Tiger star Josh Reynolds insists he did not fail a roadside drugs test. A drunk driver is behind bars after a shocking crash that nearly killed a pedestrian. And the government's free childcare scheme will come to an end on July the 13th. Now, the latest on our weather, here's David.
Thanks very much, Fergo. Well, the odd shower is now passing over the metro area as we go to air. Yes, you might need a brolly tomorrow. Now, the temperature range from a low of 9.1 degrees to a maximum there of 17.9, just a couple of minutes after 2 o'clock this afternoon. As we go to the suburbs, you'll notice most maxima range somewhere between 16 and 18 degrees this afternoon. Only 11 degrees there recorded at Katoomba. The showers, which we can see off the coast at the moment, some of these are now starting to move through. And the reason why, we've got this offshore trough that's been lingering, driving these showers through central northern parts of the coast. Storms at the moment will remain offshore. We are expecting a few more showers tonight and again tomorrow as this high just slips away to the south. You can see our model painting the shower activity unfolding, but the bulk of it gradually contracting north as the day wears on. In the longer term, some good rainfall totals are expected to unfold this working week, especially through the northern coast, potentially up to 50 millimetres. Nationwide tomorrow, Brisbane, fine, generally sunny and a forecast top there of around 23 degrees. Melbourne, cold and a foggy start. Sunshine to follow, light winds and around 15 degrees. A similar day is expected to develop in Adelaide. For Perth, fine and sunny around 25 degrees, but it's the tropical north that's looking nice this time of year, isn't it? 33 degrees in Darwin, clear skies. Townsville around 26 degrees. Hopefully those borders will open up soon. Back home, we'll see widespread inland frost and some fog patches, then a sunny day to follow. Partly cloudy conditions along the coast with those scattered showers gradually heading north, as I mentioned earlier, towards the end of the day. For the metro area, just a few showers from time to time, a millimetre or two, clearing during the second half of the day. In fact, as we go to our coastal waters forecast, becoming light and variable during the afternoon. We'll see smooth seas throughout the day, sitting on top of a very low southerly swell. For the city, a morning shower or two, then a fine afternoon to follow, top of around 18 degrees. As for the next 7 days, there it is on your screen. Dry, a little bit warmer on Wednesday. Fine for Thursday, a week change on Friday. That's the latest weather, Fergo.
Good on you, Brownie. Thanking you. And that is 7 News for this Monday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening. I'm Mark Ferguson from all the team. I hope you have a great night.